because we got our first details on the PlayStation 5 this week from an interview with Wired.
Yeah, that was a great get for them. And, this isn't like a leak or someone, speaking anonymously. It was Mark Cerny, the architect of the PS4 and now the architect of the PS5, showing them demos and talking about exactly what they want to do with this next console. Not called the PS5 yet, but it will likely be. Yeah, but
odds,
just so people know, they said it's like the next PlayStation console.
Right. Odds that it's called PlayStation 5, though. 95%?
Oh, higher than that.
99.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody in the public's already calling it that. They have instant branding. They got to go with it.
I think in Wired's article, they kept calling it PS5.
Well, what I loved about the Wired article is just the amount of times that they referenced Mark Cerny's sly grin, because Mark Cerny's a very soft, polite, smiley guy, and so like every time there was clearly a yes, like in terms of they announced it's backwards compatible.
So also, wait, real quick, did they said that straight, or were they,
yes.
or was people extrapolating that from the fact that they were showing off Spider-Man?
They were showing off Spider-Man, but then in the Wired recap, they also said, it's going to be backwards compatible with the PlayStation 4.
That's exciting.
Which is so huge. Yeah. And then all these other mysteries, it was a lot of Mark Cerny smiling and being like, I don't know.
Yeah. Death Stranding, they specifically cited as him. They were like, is this going to be on PS5? And he he didn't respond was sort of the wording of it. And they're like, but there was a pregnant pause, and he winked.
Well, it was, not only was it PS5, but the idea that it might be cross-gen, which I think we've been saying on the podcast for a while, like that seems likely if it's a 2020 release, which also seems likely, I guess.
Yeah.
The idea that then it would also be cross-gen and compatible on both. But I wonder if Kojima can resist the temptation of a new generation, and like if there's new features that are exclusive to
Metal
that.
Gear ray tracing.
That's pretty smart. That's a smart
5,
joke.
I always forget that 5, or was it just Ground Zeroes was cross-platform?
I think all of 5. I think Phantom Pain as well is playable on last gen, which is just bonkers.
Yeah.
Also, PlayStation VR compatible, which is exciting.
You got to think they'll have a new headset whenever PS5 comes out, wireless, kind of like the new Oculus.
Right, but it's still wild,
Quest.
the idea that you can just plug in your old one and it'll work.
Yeah.
It's like, as I read this Wired article, it's just more and more things like, these are just details with the next generation just thrown out there. It's a bold move from Sony to get this messaging out there, especially through Wired at this point.
Yeah.
Like, why do you think now is the time where Sony's like, let's start to say something?
I wonder if it was they want to, because the big takeaway to me of all of Wired's article was that they're still going like local hardware running games well. And
you can play discs in this thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Are we sure it's discs?
They said discs.
They did say discs.
Yeah.
Okay. I swear I read this thing. I just didn't remember all the details. That's exciting to me.
Yeah.
And then I wonder if they're just getting this little bit out there to kind of go against Stadia, go against whatever Xbox is doing.
Well, it happened
streaming on Switch.
It happened on the same day that Microsoft was announcing its disc-free Xbox One.
Right.
And if you think it's a coincidence, it's not. I mean, these companies know what's going on.
Yeah.
They intentionally picked the same day. I don't know if it was Microsoft doing it or Sony doing it, but they definitely wanted the messaging on the same day.
I think, they just wanted to be on that separate branch of like, this is what they're doing. We can't tell you everything, but we want to at least lay the groundwork and let you know this is what we're doing.
And it's also like a soft way almost to test the messaging of like, what we talked about 1,000 times on this podcast, the idea of whether or not they can just pull a last generation again of everybody else or Xbox taking too big of a leap, and then Sony can be like, but we're here for the gamers,
Yeah.
And if they seem to be touting that again, at least testing the message of like, you can play discs on this thing, it's going to be powerful, it might not even include streaming, and everyone's like, okay, I think we're on board.
It felt like the same thing, like game sharing again. I know it's not a fair comparison of PS5 versus the last gen of Xbox, but that messaging was similar, right? Where you're just like, they're still doing this stuff.
Yeah.
On the new one.
Yeah.
I have more options over here. What are you doing?
It's so bizarre. So other details here. Mark Cerny said the dev kits are out there. They're getting more out there now, which is exciting to hear. I love, too, the detail, too, of not being able to see what the console looked like or the system looked like. It was under like an aluminum tube or something bizarre. The big thing that Mark Cerny touched on in this article at Wired was the solid-state drive, which is an interesting thing to tout out of the gate of like, this is going to include... It's going to increase load times, streaming tech, everything with the solid-state drive. It's going to be huge.
That solid's... Man, the price of that stuff right now, obviously over time, it all goes down, right? Like, so we get like that sticker shock now of like, how much does that card go for PCs now? But a year from now, it might be $150, right? That solid state drive, though, what did it do for Spider-Man? It was load times. They did a fast travel on PS4 from one point to another in the city. It took like 15 seconds. On the PS5 or this next console, it was 0.8 seconds. So it's like basically crushing load times. And that's exactly what I've said, maybe even on this show, that the next generation to wow me is get rid of load times. If we're going to be like a storytelling medium, you can't have those black screens with the spinning disc on them anymore.
Right.
We've sat through that a lot. You've had companies kind of overcome that, Naughty Dogs, but very few have done that. A lot of our games have loading screens with tips on them and minute-long breaks in the action. And if that's where we're going, if that's like the main goal is to crush that and just have it be a seamless experience, that's amazing.
Well, Stadia might offer that as well.
It could. Yeah. I mean, they could keep upgrading that too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just you'll have latency.
Yep. Also, they said support 4K. Obviously, also will support 8K. Was an interesting detail in there. Like they're really thinking far ahead here. Mark Cerny, smartest man in the game industry. He knows what he's doing here.
When I read that, coupled with it's going to have physical media again,
yeah,
I started thinking about the sizes, like the file size of 8K textures and stuff like that.
God.
Like think about downloading. Like, what is it? 3 times larger than 4K is kind of how it works out.
Sure.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah.
So you'd have like 300 gig games, maybe. I know that's not exact math. Maybe some developers can let us know in the comments.
The Blu-ray disc is going to be the size of a record, I believe.
I mean, is it going to be a chip? Is it going to be a card? Is it going to be a disc?
Have a new media type? Like, I mean,
yeah,
Blu-rays
I
are kind of old at this point, right?
Because when they say it's backwards compatible, that doesn't mean discs, right?
Yeah.
It could be your PlayStation library will carry over, and then you can download
That's
it
an interesting point.
My prediction. I have a prediction.
Yes.
Laserdisc sized Blu-ray. And then it'll be like putting a game.
It'll be vinyl.
It'll be like putting a GameCube game in the Wii when you put a PS4 game. They're just huge slot.
I bet it'll still be discs.
Yeah.
I bet if they're taking a conservative
There's-
approach, and then just so they technically can support it, but we're going to move on to something else.
I mean, there's like Ultra HD. Those hold a lot more data, right? So maybe it'll be like
but
Ultra Blu-rays or
Man, if
something.
these games get that big. I mean, how many devs are going to do 8K though, right? Like out of the gates?
All the first party stuff, right? I mean,
Well,
it's going to take a hell of a long time. I mean,
How many are doing native 4K?
right?
Yeah,
Maybe
good
by
point.
2025,
Yeah,
we'll see.
you're probably right.
We'll see Last of Us Part 4 in 8K.
Yeah.
something like that. But just for the guts here, if you're interested in that type of thing. So this is from Wired. They say the CPU is based on the 3rd generation of AMD's Ryzen line and contains 8 cores of the company's new 7 nanometer Zen 2 micro architecture. Dan Tech is salivating right now. The GPU, a custom variant of Radeon's Navi family, will support ray tracing, a technique that models the travel of light to simulate complex interactions in 3D environments.
That has nothing to do with Zelda. Get that out of your
I
mind.
know. I read that and got excited.
Yeah, the ray tracing thing, it's something available on PCs now. It's certainly a good buzzword for like, how do you improve visuals? Ray tracing.
think
Let
that's-
light bounce around even more.
That's going to be the buzzword of the next gen.
Yeah.
One of them, yeah, for sure.
The thing that surprised me about the ray tracing stuff was, I guess this is a known thing, but like how it affects sound.
Well,
Like,
the
'cause-
idea that it's like any ray, so it can also
Yeah.
be just sound bouncing around the
Because Cerny said
environment.
if you wanted to run tests to see if the player can hear certain audio sources or if the enemy can hear the player's footsteps, ray tracing is useful for that, which
Yeah.
I thought was interesting and weird. I didn't realize it like engaged with sound as much as it did with the way it looks.
And Cerny focusing on sound was really interesting as well.
Yeah.
He said the AMD chip also includes a custom unit for 3D audio that Cerny thinks will redefine what sound can do in a video game. As a gamer, he says, it's been a little bit of frustration that audio did not change too much between the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. With the next console, the dream is to show how dramatically different the audio experience can be when we apply significant amounts of hardware horsepower to it.
Yeah. And then he said like those, I was like, well, this all sounds great, but I don't have a surround sound system. But then he was like, well, you'll notice the change even with your normal speakers, and headphones will be he called it the gold standard.
I
which
guess I
was
will
like,
trust Mark Cerny.
Yeah, I'm skeptical about how much I will notice that difference. you
Yeah.
know, but we'll see. I don't
And
know.
also, a lot of the article was kind of framed like these are just the basics, but Mark Cerny doesn't want you to see this as an upgrade. He wants you to see it as there's going to be a dramatic change. But I don't know what that's going to be unless it's a wonky looking controller at this point, or like what could really hit us over the head with like this. It's clearly next generation. But I think gamers are fine with this. Give us a more powerful PlayStation.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
I mean, he made it sound like there's a pretty big divide between this and the PS4. It's not just like a mid-gen kind of thing. Like this
Right.
is the next big hardware upgrade. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Give me a better battery on my damn controller.
It'd be nice.
That's all I want.
It would
More
certainly
hard
be
drive
nice.
space, yeah.
Yep. And the fact that it's backwards compatible, we could still use our DualShocks then, in theory, for the PlayStation 5.
no.
So then they can probably get rid of the touchpad for the next
God.
one around.
I didn't even think of that.
Did you guys see that story that I'm obsessed with? At GDC, the Astrobot director showed like prototypes for the early PlayStation 4 controller. There's some good wonky stuff in there.
Yeah.
Like it looks so much more like the Wii U gamepad than I was expecting, where the touchpad originally, one version, it was just like massive.
Will they put the left analog stick in the right spot?
I think it is in the right spot.
No.
Hello.
I don't think they
No.
will. I think that's
No.
core to a PlayStation controller, for
Yep.
better or worse. I know you don't like it. It doesn't bug me either way.
Scuff
honestly.
does it, right?
Yeah. Oh, do they? They swap it.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll
think
be
they
one
will.
of the big things. With like the base controller, maybe be able to swap around where different things are.
Change things out like the
Yeah.
Pro controller on
That
Xbox.
could be.
I'll pay an extra $50 if it's in the right spot.
Wow.
All right.
Jeez.
There you go, Mark.
They also said, when asked about streaming, Mark Cerny just said, well, does anybody have a good Mark Cerny? I guess I'll do mine. Here we go.
We don't know the quote, Hanson, so I don't know what you want me to
The quote is, oh, this old thing? Which is our go-to Mark Cerny impersonation, is him saying,
was-
oh, this old thing?
That just sounded like you.
No. This is Mark Cerny. He says,
bit higher.
we are cloud gaming pioneers, and our vision should become clear as we head toward launch. As far as streaming goes. So that implies to me that, like, yeah, obviously PlayStation Now will carry forward just so they can almost hedge their bets a little bit. If streaming does clearly become the future, there will be a PlayStation option. But if they push hard that, like, this is the place for your tangible gamers, that's a really good message.
I wonder if backwards compatibility will work in the same way Xbox does, where you put Spider-Man in your PS5 and you're not like running it off the disc necessarily. It's like getting downloaded or you're streaming it.
That's already how it works for every game anyway.
Oh, I guess what I mean, like, yeah, you download it, like, but I mean, maybe it'll just acknowledge that you have the disc, and then you'll just stream PS4 remotely, or stream Spider-Man remotely.
Oh,
Is
you're
what I'm
saying through
saying.
PlayStation Now?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
doubt it. I bet it would run the same
Okay.
architecture inside.
Yeah.
And also remember, there was that rumor that they were looking into backwards compatibility for PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 as well. Like, if that's the case, Microsoft is going to have another uphill climb messaging-wise, because that is such a good success story. If they can pull that off, I care more about that than 3D audio, realistically. Like, my headphones are fine. PlayStation 4 audio seems fine.
Yeah.
We're good here. Hey, exciting.
It
PlayStation
is.
5,
It's
here.
very exciting. It was a surprise. And again, hats off to Wired.
For sure.
That's a great story.
Go read the full article for sure. That was just a clip from a larger show called The Game Informer Show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, or GameInformer.com. We take the fun opportunities and exclusive information from Game Informer magazine and boil it into a show that airs every Thursday with exclusive cover story information, developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So come love games with us.